Okay, so get this. Northern China.
Hmm.
Not exactly the first place that pops into your head when you think AI, right?
Right.
But that's what makes this so interesting. We've got all this research, uh, papers, articles pointing to this initiative, TATANKA.
TATANKA, yeah.
And it's really kind of shaking things up.
It really is. It really challenges, I think, a lot of our assumptions about where innovation is happening. What's so interesting to me about this is that they seem to be going beyond, kind of the typical AI stuff that you think about with China, like facial recognition and stuff. And instead, they're looking at how to empower marginalized communities, particularly indigenous groups,
Yeah.
through, and this is the interesting part, the arts.
Yeah, I was surprised too when I saw that. But it makes sense when you kind of think about the region, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's a place with such rich indigenous cultures.
Yeah.
We're talking, Mongols, Uyghurs, Kazakhs, just to name a few.
Yeah.
And they each have their own incredibly vibrant artistic traditions.
Yeah, and I think what TATANKA understands is that these traditions aren't relics of the past.
Right.
They're living, breathing sources of inspiration and content.
Yeah.
Really ripe for the AI landscape.
So help me understand this. What's making northern China, of all places, emerge as this potential AI powerhouse? Like, what's going on there that we're maybe missing?
Yeah, it's really interesting. These papers point to a couple of things. One is this abundance of renewable energy sources.
Okay.
In regions like Inner Mongolia, Heilongjiang, we're talking wind, solar, hydro, all
Wow.
perfect for AI, which, as you know, can be pretty energy intensive.
Yeah, it can be a real energy hog, so that makes sense.
Yeah. But what's so interesting about this region is that they have a surplus of this energy,
Interesting.
unlike some other AI hubs that are really struggling to keep up with demand.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The other thing is government support. China's been strategically investing in these regions, initiatives like the Western Development Program. And this isn't just like vague policy. It's a real influx of resources, building up infrastructure, technology, specifically geared toward fostering innovation.
So they're setting the stage, and AI is part of that strategy.
Yeah, it really seems that way. And then, of course, you have this incredible cultural heritage of these diverse indigenous communities,
Right, right.
which TATANKA sees as a gold mine. It's not just about preserving these traditions, it's about sparking entirely new forms of AI-powered creativity by integrating them with technology.
I'm really curious about that. What does that AI and arts collaboration actually look like? Can you give me a specific example?
Sure, yeah. Imagine you're learning to play the matukin.
And what?
The matukin, it's a traditional Mongolian bowed instrument.
Okay.
Really hard to master, takes years.
Yeah.
Now imagine an AI-powered tutor that can listen to you play,
Okay.
identify areas where you're struggling, and offer you personalized feedback based on a vast database of expert performances.
Oh, wow.
It could totally revolutionize how these traditions are taught and learned.
Yeah, that's so different from, the typical AI applications we hear about.
Right.
It's not about replacing human connection. It's
Yeah.
enhancing it.
Exactly.
So we've talked about the why of northern China. Let's get into the who behind TATANKA. What are they actually hoping to achieve? What's their goal?
Well, based on their mission statement, it's pretty audacious. They're aiming to create economic opportunities for indigenous communities
Okay.
by equipping them with the power of AI.
So not just preserving culture, but actually using technology to generate jobs and empower people economically.
Precisely.
Wow.
And they also want to leverage AI to promote cultural exchange and understanding,
Okay.
both within China and on a global scale. Imagine being able to experience the richness of these traditions through AI-powered interactive platforms.
I'm starting to grasp the big picture, but I'm a show me, don't tell me kind of person.
Yeah.
Are there concrete examples of this actually working?
There's this really inspiring story about a woman named Mel Lin
Okay.
and her startup, Equitech. They developed an AI tutor called
𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗔𝗡. What's that?
It translates to little you.
Little you. That's cute.
Yeah, it's designed to bridge the educational gap between rural and urban areas of China.
Okay.
So Mei Lin recognized that many children in rural areas, they struggle in traditional classrooms.
Yeah.
Due to a lack of resources, different dialects, cultural barriers.
Right.
𝗧𝗧 is designed to adapt to individual learning styles, integrating local dialects and cultural references into its lessons.
So it's like personalized learning, but with a culturally sensitive twist.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
That's fantastic.
And the impact's been pretty phenomenal. Students from underprivileged backgrounds who might have fallen behind are now thriving with 𝗧𝗧's guidance.
That's a perfect example of how AI can be used for social good, which aligns with TATANKA's broader mission. Are there other examples like this?
There are. I mean, while 𝗧𝗏 focuses on education, it really shows the potential for AI to address all these different challenges that marginalized communities are facing.
Right.
And there's a lot more to unpack about how TATANKA is working with specific indigenous cultures.
Yeah.
But before we dive into that.
Yeah, let's take a quick pause and come back to it in just a moment. I'll need to catch my breath.
Okay.
Okay, so we've established that northern China is becoming this unexpected AI hub, and TATANKA is right at the heart of it, using AI to empower indigenous communities through the arts. But how does this actually play into China's larger goals? I mean, they've made it pretty clear that they want to be a global leader in AI.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think what the research suggests is that TATANKA's focus on inclusivity and ethical AI development could actually be a key part of China's strategy.
You mean it's not just about technological dominance? There's this softer side to their AI push?
Yeah, it seems that way. By showcasing how AI can be used to uplift marginalized communities and celebrate cultural diversity, they could position themselves as a leader in what some are calling human-centered AI.
So, okay, so there's a whole other layer to this story. It's not just about algorithms and processing power. It's about values and social impact.
Right.
But I'm curious, do these articles mention any potential downsides or challenges to this whole AI boom? It can't all be positive.
Well, you're right to be cautious. I mean, whenever you have rapid technological development, especially when it's intertwined with government initiatives, there are bound to be, complexities.
Sure. So what are some of the potential red flags we should be watching for?
Well, one concern that comes up a lot with AI is the potential for job displacement.
Right.
If AI starts automating certain tasks, what happens to the people who are previously doing those jobs?
Right, because the goal is to create opportunities, not make existing problems worse, right?
Exactly. And then there's the whole issue of data privacy.
Oh, right.
I mean, China has a complex relationship with data, and the use of AI for things like facial recognition has raised concerns about how it could be used to monitor or even control populations.
So it's important to think about how this technology might be used, not just for positive social impact, but also for potentially less desirable purposes.
For sure. And then there's the fundamental question of who benefits from this AI boom.
Right.
Will the economic opportunities created by these initiatives be equitably distributed, or will they primarily benefit those who are already in positions of power?
Yeah, it's we need to make sure that this whole AI revolution doesn't end up widening the gap between the haves and have-nots.
Exactly. And that's where the conversation around ethical AI development becomes so crucial. It's not enough to just focus on the technological advancements.
Yeah.
We need to be thinking about the social and political implications as well.
Yeah, AI is this powerful tool, but it can be used in many different ways, and we need to be mindful of the potential consequences, good and bad.
Yeah, precisely. And it's up to us as a society to ensure that AI is developed and deployed in a way that benefits all of humanity, not just a select few.
Yeah, I hear you. But let's bring it back to TATANKA and their vision for this more inclusive approach to AI. They seem to understand that technology isn't just about bits and bytes. It's about people and cultures and values.
I think that's a crucial point.
Yeah.
They seem to be trying to inject a dose of humanity into this whole AI revolution.
Yeah.
Which is something we desperately need, not just in China, but around the world.
Okay, so we've touched on the potential benefits and challenges of this AI surge in northern China and how TATANKA is trying to navigate those complexities. But let's circle back to the heart of their mission, this intersection of AI and the arts. Can we delve into some more concrete examples of what that could look like in practice?
Absolutely, yeah. Remember Mei-Lin's AI tutor, 𝗧𝗏.
Right.
That's just one example of how AI can be used to personalize and enhance education, especially in areas where access to quality teaching is limited.
Right. Using AI to bridge educational gaps. But what I'm really curious about is how AI could be used to actually preserve and revitalize these traditional art forms.
Yeah.
That seems like a whole other level of complexity.
It is complex,
Yeah.
but the potential is enormous.
Mhm.
Think about traditional Mongolian music, for example.
Yeah.
AI could be used to create incredibly detailed digital archives of musical performances. We're talking notation, audio recordings, video footage, all meticulously tagged and categorized.
So a high-tech version of those old folk song anthologies, but on a much grander scale.
Exactly. And then You could take it a step further. AI could be used to analyze those archives, identifying patterns and structures in the music. Imagine AI even being able to generate new compositions based on these traditional styles.
AI composing original music, that's getting into some pretty mind-blowing territory. But would it really capture the, essence of the tradition?
Well, that's a valid question. And the goal isn't to replace human creativity, but to explore new possibilities. It could be a really powerful tool for collaboration, with AI and human artists working together to push the boundaries of cultural expression.
I can see how that could be incredibly exciting for artists. What about other art forms? How would AI work with something like storytelling?
Take 𝗧𝗕ᗕടാᔑ, for example. It's a form of oral storytelling, traditional in Inner Mongolia.
Okay.
And it's all about captivating an audience with tales of heroes and history. AI could be used to create interactive storytelling experiences where you choose your own adventure based on these traditional narratives.
Oh, cool.
Imagine a virtual reality experience where you're immersed in the story, surrounded by the sights and sounds of the Mongolian steppe.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. That sounds incredible. It's like bringing these ancient traditions to life in a way that's engaging and accessible for modern audiences.
Exactly, and it's not limited to Mongolia. Think about the 𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗔𝗡𝗞𝗔 in Xinjiang. It's a complex musical tradition, combines poetry, music, and dance, often performed at weddings and festivals. AI could analyze the intricate melodies and rhythms of mukam, helping to preserve this UNESCO-recognized art form.
It's almost like AI could become this bridge between the ancient and the modern, connecting these cultural treasures to the digital world in a way that feels authentic and respectful.
That's the hope, and it's not just about preserving the past. AI could also be used to create new forms of artistic expression, blending traditional elements with modern technology. Imagine a holographic dance performance that incorporates elements of Uyghur Mukam, or an interactive video game that allows you to explore the world of Tibetan TATANKA art.
Okay, now I'm really getting excited about the possibilities.
Yeah.
But I have to ask, how do we ensure that these AI-powered initiatives actually benefit the communities they're supposed to serve? How do we avoid that trap of technology being imposed from the outside rather than coming from within?
Well, that's where the idea of co-creation becomes so essential. It's not about technologists developing AI tools in isolation and then dropping them into communities. It's about working hand in hand with artists, cultural practitioners, and community members from the very beginning.
So a more collaborative and participatory approach rather than a top-down, tech-driven solution.
Precisely. It's about making sure that the communities themselves have a voice in how these technologies are developed and used. And it's about ensuring that the benefits of these AI initiatives, whether it's economic opportunities, educational resources, or cultural revitalization, are equitably distributed within the community.
It sounds like a delicate balancing act, respecting tradition while embracing innovation.
It is. But that's what makes TATANKA's work so fascinating. They seem to understand that technology should serve people, not the other way around. And they're committed to using AI to create a more inclusive and equitable future, where technology is used to empower marginalized communities and celebrate the diversity of human culture.
It's such a powerful vision, but I have to be honest, part of me is still a bit skeptical. This all sounds very, futuristic and idealistic. Is there any evidence that this is actually happening on the ground, or is it all just hype and speculation?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, and it's one that I wrestled with myself as I was digging into these articles. It's important to remember that a lot of this is still in the early stages. TATANKA itself is a relatively new organization, and many of their projects are just getting off the ground.
So it's more about potential than proven results at this point.
I think that's a fair assessment. But there are some promising signs. The fact that the Chinese government is investing so heavily in AI development in these regions suggests that they see it as a strategic priority.
Right, they're putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak.
Exactly. And the emergence of organizations like TATANKA, with their focus on ethical and inclusive AI development, shows that there's a growing awareness of the need to, do this right.
It's like there's a sense that this is a pivotal moment, and the choices we make now will have a ripple effect far beyond northern China.
I agree. And the questions being raised about the social and ethical implications of AI are relevant globally. We're all grappling with how to navigate this technological revolution in a way that benefits all of humanity.
Okay, so maybe it's too early to say for sure whether this AI renaissance in northern China will live up to its promise, but it's definitely something worth keeping an eye on.
Absolutely. And it's a good reminder that the future of AI is not predetermined. It's something we're all shaping through the choices we make, the values we prioritize, and the stories we tell.
Okay, I love that we get to be part of writing this story. But before we wrap up, I'm curious, did these articles give any insight into how TATANKA plans to actually measure the success of their initiatives? I mean, it's one thing to talk about, empowering communities and promoting cultural exchange, but how do you really know if you're making a difference?
Yeah, that's the key question. And unfortunately, the articles didn't provide a ton of detail about their specific evaluation metrics. But there are a few clues that suggest they're approaching this in a thoughtful and holistic way.
Okay, so what kind of clues are we talking about?
Well, for one thing, they really seem to be emphasizing community engagement and feedback throughout the entire process. They're not just developing AI tools in isolation. They're actively soliciting input from the people who will be using them, making sure their needs and perspectives are incorporated.
So it's not just about measuring the technical performance of the AI, it's about understanding its impact on people's lives and cultures.
Exactly. And they're also focused on building long-term partnerships with local organizations and institutions, which suggests they're thinking about sustainability and impact that extends beyond the initial development phase.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to weave these AI initiatives into the fabric of the communities they're working with rather than just, parachuting in with a quick tech fix.
That's a great way to put it. And they also seem to recognize the power of storytelling and cultural exchange as key indicators of success. It's not just about preserving traditions in a digital archive. It's about seeing those traditions come to life in new and innovative ways and sharing them with wider audiences.
So measuring not just the technical output of the AI, but its cultural impact as well. That's really fascinating.
It is, and it suggests that TATANKA is thinking about success in a more nuanced and multifaceted way than simply counting downloads or measuring user engagement.
Okay, that makes me feel a bit more optimistic about their approach, but I still think it's important to, hold them accountable and see how these initiatives actually play out in the long run. We can't just take their word for it.
I completely agree. It's too early to declare victory, but there's definitely a lot of potential here. And it's something that we, as engaged citizens, should be following closely and asking critical questions about.
Well said. And who knows, maybe this AI renaissance in northern China will inspire similar initiatives in other parts of the world, using technology to empower marginalized communities and celebrate the richness of human culture.
Yeah, that would be incredible to see. It's a vision worth striving for.
It really is. And on that note, I think we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into northern China. But before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with a little food for thought. We've been talking about TATANKA and indigenous communities in China, but what about the indigenous communities in your own backyard? Are there opportunities to use AI to support their cultural revitalization or economic empowerment? It's something to ponder.
That's a brilliant point.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that these issues aren't just theoretical or far away. They're happening right here, right now. We all have a role to play in shaping a future where technology is used to create a more just and equitable world for all.
Beautifully said. And on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. Thank you for joining us on this journey to northern China. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning. It's inspiring to think about AI being used in such a positive way, especially when we often hear about, its potential for harm. But that brings me back to something you mentioned earlier, the risk of AI exacerbating existing inequalities.
Right.
How do we guard against that, especially in a place like northern China where power dynamics can be so complex?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And there's no easy answer. But I think the key is recognizing that technology is never truly neutral.
Right.
It's always shaped by the values and intentions of the people who create it and use it.
So it's not just about the code itself, but the human context in which it's developed and applied.
Exactly. And that means we need to be very intentional about, who's involved in that development process, whose voices are being heard, and whose interests are being served.
So building ethical considerations into AI development from the ground up, from the algorithms to the data sets to the decision-making processes.
Absolutely. And that's where initiatives like TATANKA are so crucial. They're not just talking about using AI to preserve culture. They're talking about using it to empower communities and promote social justice.
It's like they're trying to turn the typical narrative about AI on its head.
Yeah.
Instead of this top-down, tech-driven force, it's a tool for, bottom-up, community-driven change.
I think that's a great way to describe it. They're recognizing that AI has the potential to be a catalyst for positive change, but only if it's developed and deployed in a way that prioritizes, human values and social good.
Okay, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. But
Yeah.
is TATANKA really the only organization doing this kind of work in China? Are there others out there pushing for this ethical and inclusive AI development?
That's a good question, and to be honest, I wish we had more information on that. From what we've gathered, they definitely seem to be the most prominent group focused on this specific intersection of AI, the arts, and indigenous communities.
So they're really trailblazers in this space.
It seems that way, yeah. But as China's AI sector continues to expand, I wouldn't be surprised if we see other groups and initiatives emerge, perhaps with their own unique approaches to, ethical AI development.
It would be fascinating to watch this movement unfold and to see if it inspires similar efforts in other parts of the world.
It really would. And it's something that, we can all play a role in. As citizens, as consumers, as investors, we have a responsibility to support organizations that are developing AI in a responsible and ethical way.
It's not just about being aware of these issues, it's about taking action and making choices that align with the kind of future we want to create.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The future of AI is not, some predetermined outcome. It's something we're all shaping through our decisions, our actions, and the values we choose to prioritize.
Those are powerful words to end on. I think we've done a pretty thorough deep dive into this topic today. We've covered a lot of ground, from the surprising rise of northern China as an AI hub to the potential for AI to both empower and marginalize communities, and of course, the importance of ethical considerations in AI development.
It's been a fascinating conversation. I learned a lot. I'm really eager to see how this story continues to unfold in the years to come.
Me too. And for our listeners out there, if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, we encourage you to, learn more about TATANKA and the work they're doing. Maybe it'll even inspire you to explore how AI can be used to create positive change in your own community. Remember, the future of AI is in our hands. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring.